Hey everybody, it's Ben here. I have bad news. I just found out that Stan Lee died. I don't normally talk about pop culture or news and politics on my channel. I'm usually talking about renewable energy, do-it-yourself, clean transportation, things like that. And that's why I wanted to say something about Stan Lee, is because a lot of what I talk about is actually about empowerment, and that really ties right back to comic books and the influence that people like Stan Lee have had, not only on the culture in general, but on me personally. In a lot of ways, one of the core stories of my life has been about empowerment and improvement. There's been some times I've been at very, very bad places in my life, and comic books have always been one of those things to encourage me and make me become a better person. The pen is mightier than the sword. We know that, whether it's great works of literature or if it's comic books. We sometimes overlook how influential comic books can be because they're not highbrow. It's maybe something kids read. But how many 8-year-old boys are reading Shakespeare? And compare that to how many are reading Spider-Man and Iron Man and all these great characters that just leap off the page. So that's the thing, really, is comic books are just about storytelling, and stories are powerful, extremely powerful, and they always have been. From the time cavemen sat around a fire, to the Bible, Greek and Roman myths, all the way up to today when we use stories to spin politics. It's very powerful stuff. And Stan Lee was a creator who made these amazing characters, and they transcended the media. They weren't just comic books, they were comic strips, they were movies, they were video games, fan fiction, and cosplay. So there's been so many of us who have been deeply affected by all these different characters. I know that when I was growing up, I was always interested in science, and part of it was because Peter Parker liked science. I loved Spider-Man. I wanted to be like him. I wanted, I wanted to be the helpful guy in the neighborhood. Probably my favorite character ever was Iron Man. And it's not just because he had this powerful robot suit and could fly and shoot repulsors. It's because Iron Man, he didn't have a super ability. He wasn't a mutant. He wasn't an alien, anything like that. It's that he was smart. Now, it didn't hurt that he was rich, but come on, that's Batman's superpower too. But Tony Stark could design and build things, and I always loved that. I always took things apart to see how they work, try to put them back together, take a bit from this and a bit from that, and put them together and make something new. So if it wasn't for Spider-Man and Iron Man, I wouldn't be who I am. Which is weird to say, but I think all of us feel like that in one way or another. We all have people who've influenced our lives, and Stan Lee's one of them. For me, so many of these comic book characters, especially the heroes, it was about empowerment, not just that they had superpowers, but that they did the right thing. They stood up for what was right. They took charge. They took control of this situation for the better. A number of years back, some friends and I were working on a project designing an open source motor controller for do-it-yourself electric cars so that more people could have their own electric car. And at that time, you couldn't even buy an electric car. You pretty much had to build one yourself. And frankly, I wasn't any good at electronics. I did do some testing, but the other thing is I designed the t-shirt. So if you look at the t-shirt that I came up with, if you think that looks a little bit like something a superhero might wear, you're not wrong. Those are the kind of things that I always had in the back of my mind. How do we become better? How do we create? How do we stand up when we need to make the world a better place? We've all had positive influences in our life, whether that's an uncle who took an interest in you, or a 6th grade science teacher, or a writer. Characters like those written and created by Stan Lee, they have a life of their own, and they become as real as some of the people that you might know. And what I really take away from all of it is how every single one of us can be a hero. And we don't need X-ray vision and we don't need super strength. As long as we stand up for what's right and we're kind to each other and we share and teach together, we make the world a better place. And if there's one thing I take away from comic books, it's how they've made me a better person. So to Stan Lee, we're going to miss you, but we'll never forget you. You'll live on forever through your immortal characters and your on-screen cameos. And to everyone else, to all the true fans, I say, Excelsior! That was hard. That was, yeah, kind of big, heavy, emotional stuff here. Go to my blog. Go to 300mpg.org. I will write an article about this. It's, I did not personally know Stan Lee, but there's still a lot of emotions just because he really was an influential guy. And, you know, how we view ourselves in the world is made in so many different ways. And a big part of that is what we read when growing up, how we identify. And I really think that these comic book characters really helped a lot of people form their own personal identity. And when we lose somebody like Stan Lee, we are at a loss. You know, for whom does the bell toll? It tolls for thee. We always lose a little piece of ourselves when we lose anyone in society, but storytellers in their many forms, I think are some of the greatest members of our society, whether that's shamans or musicians or comic book artists. They are the people who tell us who we are and tell us our place in society, and they'll be missed. Thank you, Stan.